What's going on, everybody? Hyper here, back with a locals recap. I'm sorry about last week not putting out one. Just a lot of things in my personal life that were going on, and I needed to take care of that, and also I needed to prepare for regionals that happened yesterday, and I'm really glad that I did because it was insane what happened. We had 173 people participate, and I ended up 47th. I got 4 wins, 3 losses, and a draw. And I was, to be honest, pretty proud of myself. And so we we had a very, what I would say, what I expected to show, which was a lot of Tearlaments. Actually, I would probably gamble half of the people that were playing Tearlaments. I think mostly it was branded. There was some pure and a couple punk. Then there was some Flunderies, Spright. I would say more adventure Eldlich, and then Math Mag. But I mean, I didn't really see much of anything else. Um, it was it wasn't really shocking to me when I discovered that Tearlaments won. I mean, to me, it wasn't shocking because they just had a huge showing, and it's just such a versatile deck. And also, I think what we've discovered is that it's incredibly easy to shut Spright down. Now, obviously, if they get their board set up, it's really hard to do anything unless you have a dark ruler. But it wasn't really hard. Let's just put it that way. And so, to me, no shock. And I know that there's a lot of YouTubers out there where they're going to say that Spright is the tier 0. I'm not saying that they're wrong, but I think that's where they are. Not the case for here in Louisville. Branded Tearalaments, or just Tearlaments in general, is the tier 0 of Louisville. So, again, it might be different where they are. Not saying that they're wrong, that they don't know anything. They know their stuff. But I think what they're speaking to is more of their area, whereas here, a lot more people favor Tearlaments. Because I haven't come across one person in Louisville that's played Spright. Even in where I go to play at locals, the owner, I tried to sell him Spright Blue. He told me straight to my face, no, I'm not going to buy that. I'm like, why? It's a $90 card. He said, no, nobody wants to buy it. So, I mean, again, that says something about the state of Louisville. Now, again, it might be different where you're at, but that's where it is here. So, I don't think this will be kind of the usual recap because it was just go 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 go. So I didn't get to really make the necessary notes that I normally do. So I'll do my best to remember what I can. So, anywho, I do remember I started, for at least for the first 2 matches, I started at the last table. And I mean, I wasn't really offended or upset about it because, I mean, it made sense. I'm, relatively new to the competitive scene, and I'm not, as established as a lot of other people. But number one, I didn't go in thinking, okay, I know I'm going to win this entire thing. Because I know that I still have a lot that I need to improve on and get better at, which I'm sure showed a lot. But I did have the intention of doing better than I did last time. And I think I crushed that goal. Because for those of you that remember, I had a terrible showing. I just got tilted so easily, and I really couldn't recover. So I think I did a lot better this time, and thankfully again I did a lot of preparing, a lot of research, and I mean, the rest of it was kind of left up to, okay, what did I draw? I remember though in my first match, it was a mirror. Although I think if I remember correctly, he was playing a pure Tearlaments version, and I would have had him in the second match or the second duel, but I played Havness way too early, and by doing so, it left me with pretty much nothing. I couldn't play into, I couldn't do anything, and I think that was kind of one of my big weaknesses, and I'm glad it was exposed early because it was something I became conscious of, and I think it kind of paid out for me a lot in the end. But one of the guys, they were asking me, you know, how long I've been playing. And I said, I've only been playing competitively for probably about 3 months, but I've only been playing actual Yu-Gi-Oh for 7. And they were like, wow. And I was like, but you know what? I said, I want to thank you for your help and for giving me pointers. And I said, I really do appreciate that. And that was the one thing I enjoyed, was that a lot of the people were just super nice. And it was just something that makes me really appreciative for the community, and that they're always willing to help, because I think, as we all know, that if we help each other, it's just going to get better. The competition is going to get better, everything will be better. So I remember my second match, it was against an Eldlich, and quite interestingly, I ended up winning the first duel because of his error, where he had played his Eldlich traps, and instead of special summoning him in defense like he should have, he ended up putting him to the graveyard, and then use them to banish and use their effects in the end phase, which you're not supposed to do. And so he ended up realizing this after I had gone, and he was like, I have to take the loss. And it just dawned on me at that point. I'm like, actually, yeah. I'm like, I have no idea why you did that. And he was like, I don't. So we let it go, and I was like, all right, let's just move to the next duel. But this time I was prepared. I put in, Red Reboot. I put in all, Twin Twisters, Harpy Feather Duster, just every back row remove or interruption I could think of that will mess with them. And, it paid off. I basically put up a light board, but it was ready to counterattack. And I ended up just beating everything and sending it away. Either sending it back to his deck or destroying it. And he had no follow-up. And so it was really just a relief to me that I was actually able to pull something like that off. And I was just relieved finally that I could, finally start getting some momentum and get going. But I have to say, the next two, I ended up playing, again, more Adventure Eldlich. And I think that Eldlich is just. There's a reason why it's just not my favorite to go against. Because it just feels like there's just nothing you can really do. It's super consistent, which makes it super annoying. All they have to do is get one of their spells or traps, which is pretty much the majority of their deck. I almost wonder if the best thing to do is take their traps away with the Eradicator Devastation Virus. I don't know. I'd have to look into it, but just, kind of something I've been thinking about. I mean, I don't really think it'll work, but I guess the only thing we really have is Red Reboot at this point, and then just back row removal. But anyway, it was just seemed like a struggle fest with them. And I also remember I went against one of my first Sprights, but I felt like I was definitely prepared. In the first match, I know that he set up his board. There was nothing I could do. I didn't have Dark Ruler, which I think apparently that's what's been killing him. And I know everybody's going on about Spright, how great Spright is. And I'm not saying that Spright is bad. Spright is very good. The problem is they have to set up their board. If they don't set up their board, it's whatever. It doesn't really mean anything. They're easy to counter at that point. I mean, all you have to really do is put out El Shaddai Winda or Dark Ruler No More Them, and that's that. But something I did instead, after I was like, I conceded the first duel, and I'm like, all right, let's just move to the second one. And I ended up being able to play my deck Devastation Virus, which came up huge because what it does is I have to tribute a dark monster with 2,000 plus attack. And by doing so, all monsters that your opponent either controls or is in their hand or that they draw goes to the graveyard. Gets destroyed, goes to the graveyard. Without exception. Which is huge. Because most of his hand was set up of monsters. And so, sent all of them to the graveyard. And the thing that really, I think, hurt him was the fact that it lasts for 3 of his turns. Not just turns, but his turns. So that's about 5, 6 turns? He was without any monsters. And so, he had Spright Starter. But the problem with Spright Starter, I also had a Mirror Jade on the field. So he used the first Spright Starter to get a Spright on the field. And I just Mirror Jaded it. And I was like, okay. This is what's going to happen, man. It's like, you're going to, whatever you put on the field, if you are able to put anything on the field, I'm just going to banish it so you can't use it. I'm like, let's just go to game 2 because we were running out of time. And so eventually he's like, yeah, okay, this is kind of, hopeless. All right, we'll go to the next one. And so he wanted to try some sort of like strategy that he was just too scared to try. And I almost kind of had a feeling of what he was trying to do. And again, this is why I said before, never say too much to your opponent, because any information is information that can be used against you to give away what you're doing. And so I decided to play this very carefully because I was thinking, okay, he's probably got a D barrier, which, okay, that's fine. That's not a big deal because I had, Time Thief and Abyss Dweller and things like that. So that wasn't really a big deal to me. But I always thought, like, he's got to have some sort of a negation. Something. I mean, that's why I put him triple tactic talents in my deck, which actually ended up kind of being useful. And so this is the part where I had gotten the only draw, which I was just about to win. And I had put out from Branded Opening, I put out a Aliber. And then I had a Sharon. And so I normal summoned the Sharon and then Exceed summoned to Time Thief Redoer. And he asked me, are you activating the effect? And I just kind of looked at him. I'm like, why are you even asking me that question? I'm like, I think I know what you have. It turns out he had one of the psi frames that negates and destroys. And so I was like, no, I'm not. I'm not going to activate it. And so I put into Exceed summons into the Time Thief Redoer. And I ran out of time. And I couldn't get to the battle phase. I had the win. And I couldn't seize it. But, I think in my mind, I had the victory. But, I mean, we'll never know at this point. But, I mean, a draw is a draw. It is what it is. But that's why I'm saying, Sprite's good, but only if they can get their board set up. That just a slew of Tearalaments for pretty much the rest of my tournament after that Spright. It was just, all it was Tearlaments. That's it. That's all I played. And I was able to kind of gain insight to some more combos. Some of them kind of left me a little puzzled. I'm like, it almost feels like you took the long way around to do it. But, it is what it is. And so I remember this one kind of made me smile. Actually, my last opponent, he was a great guy. He was funny, very optimistic. I liked him. I thought he was an awesome guy. And he told me, I've only been doing competitive for about a month, and he's basically, he got into it, around Master Duel, and so, I remember he set up his board. Actually, no, that was the second. Let me talk about the first one. So the first match, the first duel, I went first. I had to eat 2 super polys. And for those of you who don't know, a super poly is when you can use your opponent's monsters to fuse into your monsters. And oh, by the way, you can't do anything in response. And so I had to eat 2 of those super polys. And I still ended up being able to put up a defense and then come back and get the victory. And so then in the second duel, he had set up his board. He had Mirror Jade, Kit Kalos, and he had, what was it, Kaleido Heart. And then he decided to then, on my turn, play Skill Drain, which I thought was a very odd choice. I understood the reasoning. I still thought it was kind of an odd choice. Because I told him, I was like, I don't think that was a good idea. And he's like, but you can't activate your on field. I'm like, yes, but you can't either. And he looked at it, he was like, oh yeah, you're right. So I was basically pretty much, I set up my board. I took out the Kit Kalos and the Reinhardt, and was left with the Mirror Jade. And at first I was like, I don't really want to attack into it because of the Raigeki effect. But then I thought about it. I'm like, wait a minute. I have a Kaleido Heart and my own Kit Kalos. If I send a Kit Kalos, I get to mill 5, and then Reinhardt just comes back. Of course, I have no intention of using its effect on the skill drain. I'm just going to keep the skill drain there. And so, because also he didn't have anything in his hand, so it became very unlikely that he could do anything. And plus, I had my traps, so I was able to pretty much mop it from there. But it was fun. It was very fun at regionals, and as I said, I did so much better this time. And I think the big thing was, number one, I didn't go with a 50 deck version. That was more branded Despia and Albaz. But instead I went with a 40 version, which mainly focused on Tearlaments with a branded Despia engine. And I think that was the smarter play because I had much higher chances of getting the cards I needed, especially when I sighted in the cards I needed to. So, all in all, I would say it was much better than last time. A lot of things that I learned from last time I implemented this time, and it was a funny one where I can't remember who, but I had a guy, he just kept going and going. He was setting up all this stuff, and he was like, I didn't think you had a. He's like, I'm just gonna keep setting because he's like, it seems like you don't have a dark ruler, and I was like, huh, go ahead, do your thing, and just kept going and going and going, and I had dark ruler in my hand, and I placed it, and he was like, oh, you let me hang myself. I was like, what else am I supposed to do? If I did it too early, wouldn't have worked. So, yeah, I basically let him hang himself, and it ended up kind of being a funny moment, but yeah, like I said last time, I am gonna plan on putting out a Tearlaments guide, just getting all the rest of the material together, and then be on the lookout for that soon. So anyway, thank you all for watching. Hope you all have a great day. Bye.